There is something deeply unsettling about betrayal, not just the act itself, but the slow realization that someone you trusted never valued you for who you are. They didn't see your heart. They didn't honor your loyalty. They saw opportunity. They saw what they could extract from you, your time, your energy, your love, and they took it without guilt, without hesitation, without looking back. And you were left to pick up the broken pieces of your dignity, to question your own worth, to wonder how someone could use you so completely and feel nothing. There's a kind of pain that doesn't just sit in your chest, but buries itself deep within your spirit. The kind of pain that makes you question the very nature of good and evil. How could they smile in your face while plotting behind your back? How could they take all that you gave and walk away as though you meant nothing? These are not just minor betrayals. These are spiritual wounds. And when someone you gave your trust to uses you, manipulates you, and discards you, something shifts inside. You're not the same afterward. You see, people often imagine karma as this vague, poetic justice. But let me tell you, karma is real. It is the immutable law of cause and effect. Every action has consequences. Every manipulation sets off a chain reaction. Every lie carries a debt. And though it may not come immediately, though it may not arrive on your schedule, karma comes like a storm long gathering on the horizon. It approaches silently until one day the skies open and everything they did comes crashing down upon them. But here's the deeper tragedy. You didn't want revenge. You didn't ask to become their enemy. You just wanted honesty. You wanted mutual respect. You believed in loyalty, in standing by someone through hardship. That's what makes their betrayal so devastating, because you gave them what you never received in return. You treated them with care while they treated you like a tool to be used and discarded. Now you sit in the aftermath wondering why your kindness was repaid with cruelty. Let me ask you something. How long will you carry their offense in your soul? How long will you question your worth because of someone else's greed? How long will you replay their lies, their deceit, their callousness, as if you are to blame for their moral failure? You see, this is the psychological trap of being used. It conditions you to think you were never good enough, but the truth is you were too good for them. Your value was never in question. Their character was. Now it is their turn to reap what they have sown. Life, with all its intricate laws and invisible balances, will bring justice. Not because you demanded it, but because it is written into the very structure of reality. You cannot take from someone without consequence. You cannot exploit the good without facing the cost. And those who used you, the ones who laughed while you suffered, who prospered while you paid the price, they are not escaping judgment. Karma is not punishment, it is balance. And that balance will break them in ways they never expected, through loss, through isolation, through the slow erosion of everything they thought they gained. What they took unjustly will become their burden. What they built on your suffering will collapse under its own weight. And you will rise from the ruins they left behind, stronger, wiser, and free. Let us now look closely at the truth behind this process, the journey from being used to watching karma take its course. Let us explore not only how you suffered, but how they will fall. These 7 realities will awaken your understanding, validate your pain, and offer the emotional justice your spirit craves. They took your kindness for weakness. Now, let life teach them respect. It always starts the same, doesn't it? You offer someone your hand, not because you have to, but because your heart tells you to. You see them struggling, you feel their need, and something inside you rises to meet it. You give, not for reward, not for recognition, but because kindness is stitched into the fabric of your soul. You are someone who shows up. Someone who sacrifices, someone who loves with no agenda. And yet, for people like you, it often ends the same way too, with betrayal, exploitation, and abandonment. There's a unique kind of pain that only comes from being used by someone you once called a friend, a partner, a family member. The betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from those you defended, those you trusted when everyone else warned you, those you gave countless chances to even when your heart was breaking. And in return, they mistook your compassion for weakness. They looked at your generosity and saw an opportunity. They saw you as someone they could manipulate, control, drain, and discard. Let's not sugarcoat it. Being used changes you. It leaves a mark that doesn't fade easily. You begin to question yourself. Was I foolish? Was I too soft? Why didn't I see it sooner? But understand this, your kindness was not the problem. Their lack of character was. You were strong enough to love deeply, to give selflessly, to believe in people when they gave you every reason not to. That's not weakness, that's courage. But they couldn't see it. They thought because you didn't fight back, because you stayed quiet, because you forgave, their actions didn't matter. They believed they had won. What they failed to realize is that life has a way of teaching lessons far more powerful than anything you could say or do. You didn't need to seek revenge. You didn't have to lower yourself to their level, because there is a force, call it karma, call it divine justice, that never allows such betrayal to go unanswered. Life keeps score, even when you don't. And now, slowly but surely, that score is being settled. You may not see it clearly yet, but life is teaching them respect in the only language they understand, through loss, through hardship, through the very kind of neglect they once inflicted on you. The people they used to impress, the circles they tried to climb, the success they tried to build on your back, it's slipping through their fingers. And behind closed doors, they are haunted by the emptiness they once filled with your love, your loyalty, your care. You see, people who mistake kindness for weakness eventually learn that they lost the one thing that truly mattered. They come to understand that not everyone would have treated them the way you did. They start to feel the absence of your presence, the support you gave, the peace you offered, the comfort they now crave but cannot find. And it breaks them slowly, quietly, the same way they broke you. You don't need to witness their downfall to know it's happening. Just trust this truth. No act of betrayal escapes the eyes of justice. No manipulation remains unpunished. And every tear you shed became the seed for their reckoning. Where they once saw you as weak, they are now being forced to confront the strength it took for you to survive what they did, and the dignity it takes to move forward while they remain shackled by the consequences of their own actions. They betrayed your trust. Now, let their world crumble without it. Trust is not given lightly, not by someone like you. It's earned slowly over time. It's built through late night conversations, shared struggles, moments of vulnerability where you chose to believe in someone even when doubt crept in. You gave them access to your life, to your thoughts, to your soul, not because you were naive, but because you wanted to believe that they were different, that they, unlike others, would value what you gave, and in return, they betrayed you. Betrayal by someone you trusted isn't just painful, it's earth-shattering. It breaks something inside of you. It makes you question your own judgment, your own reality. You replay every word, every moment, every decision, wondering how you didn't see it coming. How could someone who claimed to care about you lie so effortlessly? How could they look you in the eye while hiding knives behind their back? These are the questions that haunt the nights, that make silence feel like punishment, that leave you waking up with the weight of disbelief pressing on your chest. They didn't just break a promise, they broke the very foundation of what you built with them. Relationships, whether friendships, family bonds, or love, are built on trust. It is the thread that holds everything together. And once it is severed, everything begins to unravel. You didn't lose just their loyalty. You lost your peace, your sense of safety, your belief in the bond you thought was real. That's what betrayal does. It doesn't just end a chapter. It sets fire to everything in it. And the worst part? They walked away as if it was nothing, as if the damage they caused was irrelevant, as if your trust was disposable. They moved on, smiling, pretending, hiding behind masks, while you stood in the ruins of what once was. But life does not allow such betrayal to go unnoticed. There is a cost to breaking trust. And while they thought they escaped it, time has a way of catching up. Slowly, relentlessly. You see, trust is not something easily replaced. It's not something you can steal from one person and find again in another. When they betrayed you, they thought they had options. They believed that doors would always remain open for them, that people would always welcome them. But what they didn't realize is that when you betray trust, you curse yourself to a life of suspicion, fear, and instability. The world they tried to build without you is crumbling because it lacks the one thing they destroyed: trust. Now they live in uncertainty, in relationships that are shallow, in connections that lack depth. Why? Because betrayal follows a person like a shadow. It marks them. People start to see them for who they truly are. The lies catch up. The truth leaks out. And suddenly they find themselves alone, isolated, with no one left to turn to. The very support they took for granted in you is something they now search for and fail to find. Let them feel that loss. Let them see what life is like without trust, without your trust. Because the moment they broke it, they broke themselves. And now karma is at work, not through loud vengeance, but through silence, through the absence of the love they lost, through the collapse of the false world they built. Let them feel it, not through anger, not through revenge, but through the reality that they are now living without the one thing they can never regain. They built their success on your sacrifice. Now watch it collapse. There is a silent pain that lives in the heart of those who have been used, not for who they are, but for what they can provide. You know it well. You remember the sleepless nights, the sacrifices made without hesitation, the moments where your needs came second, third, or not at all, because you believed in them. You wanted to see them win, to rise, to succeed. You poured your time, your energy, your very soul into their dreams. You gave without keeping score. And they took it all. They took your support, your efforts, your dedication, and they called it their success. They paraded around as if they had done it alone, as if your sacrifices were insignificant, as if you were nothing more than a stepping stone on their path. They used your kindness to cushion their falls, your presence to ease their burdens, and your hard work to lift themselves up. And when they no longer needed you, when they stood tall because of everything you gave, they left you behind, forgotten. That's the cruelty of being used for someone else's gain. You're left with the emptiness while they chase the spotlight. You see them thrive in places where your effort built the foundation. You hear them speak of success, omitting your name, your struggle, your contribution, and the weight of that betrayal, it lingers. It claws at your sense of justice, your understanding of right and wrong. How can someone climb so high? By standing on the broken pieces of your loyalty. But life is not blind. There is no lasting success built on exploitation. What they built with your sacrifice may appear strong, but beneath the surface, it is hollow. It lacks the integrity that true success demands. And now as time unfolds, the cracks are beginning to show. Their world, the one you helped build, is shaking. Not because you wish it, but because what is stolen cannot be sustained. You see, they thought your absence wouldn't matter. They believed they could replace your dedication, your insight, your unwavering belief in them. But what they are learning, slowly and painfully, is that you were irreplaceable. The success they clung to is faltering because they no longer have the very person who carried it on their shoulders. And now karma moves not with fury, but with precision. Piece by piece, what they built without honor is unraveling. Their deals fall through, their relationships strain, their plans collapse under the weight of their own arrogance, and all the while they begin to realize that success achieved at someone else's expense comes with a cost they are now paying in full. And you watch, not in bitterness, but with the quiet understanding that justice doesn't always need noise. Sometimes it simply requires patience. They thought they had won. They thought they had risen above. But now life is teaching them that real success cannot be stolen. It must be earned. And what they took from you has become their curse, the very reason their empire now trembles. They left you broken. Now, let their guilt and loss break them. There's a particular kind of silence that follows betrayal, the kind that deafens you. It's the silence after they've taken everything, the trust, the love, the belief. and left you with nothing but fragments of who you used to be. You remember that silence, don't you? The moments when your chest felt heavy, when the nights felt endless, when your tears soaked into pillows that held more secrets than they ever did comfort. You weren't just hurt, you were broken. They didn't just walk away, they shattered you. With words they never took back, with actions they never explained, with lies they never admitted. And in the aftermath, while you stood paralyzed by the weight of what they did, they lived on, unbothered, unaffected, smiling, laughing, pretending as if they had done no wrong. That's what made it hurt more. Not just the betrayal, but the ease with which they moved on, as if you never mattered, as if your suffering was invisible and you were left to pick up pieces of a life that no longer felt like your own. You had to carry the burden of emotions they caused but never took responsibility for. You had to rebuild yourself with shaking hands while they thrived in the very life they ripped apart. They didn't just cause pain, they left you in it, abandoned you in your darkest hour and never looked back. But here's the truth they didn't count on. You weren't going to stay broken. Slowly, painfully, you began to rise. And while you were putting yourself back together, something else began to take root. Guilt, loss, regret, but not in your heart, in theirs. Because no one escapes the consequences of their actions. They thought they left you broken, but karma began to break them from within. At first, it was subtle. The loss of peace, the uneasy sleep, the nagging voice in the back of their mind. Then came the reflection, the realization of what they destroyed, the absence of the one person who truly cared. You see, guilt is a relentless force. It doesn't scream, it whispers, constantly, without pause. It eats away at the mask they wear, it chips at the image they try to uphold. They begin to see you everywhere, not in body, but in memory, in moments when they need support and find none. In times when they reach out and feel the emptiness of the space you once filled, their loss grows heavier. Not because they lost someone convenient, but because they lost someone genuine. And life has a way of amplifying that loss. The people they turn to now seem distant. The comfort they once felt in their choices is gone. They start to realize that what they destroyed cannot be rebuilt, that the trust they shattered will never return, that the love they dismissed will never find them again, and that's when karma breaks them. Not through external punishment, but through internal decay, through the slow realization that they ruined something pure, that they broke someone who only wanted to love them, to help them, to see them thrive. The same guilt they avoided now becomes their constant companion. The same loss they ignored now defines their reality. They thought you were replaceable. Now let them search in vain. There was something soul-crushing about being treated like an option, like a temporary fix, like someone who could easily be replaced when the time was right. You remember that feeling? The way they looked past you while you were still standing there. The way they dismissed your presence, your effort, your loyalty, as if you were just a placeholder until something better came along. They didn't see you. They saw convenience. They saw what they could use in the moment, not what they could value for a lifetime. They believed you would always be there, that your heart was something they could take for granted, that your support would never run dry. They leaned on you when they needed strength. They called on you when they needed help. But the moment they felt secure, the moment they believed they no longer need no explanation, no gratitude, no regret, just the cold, heartless move of someone who saw your worth only when it served them, and it cut deep. Because you gave them everything, not because you had to, but because you chose to, because you believed in the bond, in the connection, in the shared moments that felt real. You offered yourself fully, honestly, selflessly, and they walked away as if you were nothing. That kind of betrayal doesn't just bruise the heart. It shakes your sense of identity. It makes you wonder if you were ever enough, if what you gave ever truly mattered. But time has a way of exposing truths that were once hidden. And now, as they search for what they once had in you, they come up empty. They chase after connections, after people, after illusions, trying to replicate the comfort, the loyalty, the understanding you once gave so freely, but it's gone. And what they're realizing slowly and painfully is that you were never replaceable. What you offered came from a depth they never appreciated, a love they never truly understood. Now they are surrounded by shallow connections, by people who take as much as they do, by relationships that lack the soul you brought into their life. They seek peace but find chaos. They seek understanding but face indifference. Every time they reach for someone to fill the void, you appear, not in flesh but in memory, in the contrast between what they had and what they have now, and that contrast breaks them. You see, karma doesn't always strike with thunder. Sometimes it works through absence, through the hollow echo of what was lost, through the aching realization that they let go of something rare, something real. They thought you were one of many, but now they see you were one of a kind. And as they search, as they grasp, as they reach for someone who can give what you gave, they find only disappointment, only temporary distractions that fade into emptiness. The world they chose over you is not the world they imagined. It's colder, harsher, lonelier. And the further they drift from who you were, the more they feel the void you left behind, not because you wish it, but because you cannot replace what is genuine with what is convenient. Life has a way of revealing the truth that those who treat others as replaceable become the ones desperately searching, endlessly wanting, perpetually unfulfilled. They used lies to control you. Now let truth destroy their image. Lies are powerful weapons, not because they're true, but because they can be believed. They have the ability to reshape reality, to cloud judgment, to twist perception in a way that makes the liar feel in control and the honest feel helpless. And you know this far too well. You lived through it. You trusted someone who didn't speak truth, but rather crafted lies with precision, not to protect you, but to manipulate you. At first, the lies were small, so subtle that you didn't notice them. Little distortions, slight exaggerations, moments where words didn't match actions. But over time, they grew bolder. They learned to weaponize your trust, to use your own loyalty as a shield for their deceit. They painted themselves as victims, as misunderstood, as people burdened by the world, and you, out of compassion, believed them. You stood by them, unaware that their words were poisoning your mind, reshaping your reality to fit their version of the truth. They lied about where they were, they lied about what they felt, they lied about their intentions, about their loyalty, about their love, and each lie was a thread pulling you further into a web where you felt trapped, confused, lost. You began to question your instincts, to doubt your observations. You blamed yourself when things didn't add up. That's what lies do. They steal your confidence, your clarity, your sense of self. And they did it with ease. They smiled while lying. They comforted you with one hand and stabbed you with the other. Their lies became your prison. You found yourself justifying their behavior, making excuses, trying to hold on to the image they created. And all the while they controlled you, not with love, not with honesty, but with falsehoods designed to keep you compliant, uncertain, and loyal to someone who didn't deserve it. But here's the truth about lies. They are never eternal. They might stand for a while, they might survive the light of day for a season, but truth has a way of breaking through like light through a crack in the wall. Slowly, surely, it reveals what was hidden, and now the very lies they once used to control you are becoming the weapon that destroys them. Because when the truth begins to emerge, it doesn't need your voice. It doesn't need your defense. It speaks for itself. The inconsistencies pile up. Their stories no longer make sense. People start to notice the contradictions. The mask begins to slip. The image they built, the reputation they carefully crafted, begins to fracture under the weight of truth. They can't maintain the facade anymore. The people they tried to impress, to fool, to manipulate, now begin to see the reality. The lies unravel, and with them, so does their control. The power they once had over you, over others, disintegrates. And suddenly they're exposed, not by you, but by their own words, their own actions, their own deceit. And this exposure, it's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's silent, relentless. It creeps into their lives like a shadow they can't outrun. The same lies they told to protect themselves now rise against them, turning allies into skeptics, trust into suspicion, admiration into disgust. Karma doesn't need to strike them down. It simply needs to let truth do its work. Now they live with fear, not of you, but of reality. Every conversation, every glance, every question feels like a threat. They can no longer distinguish between who believes them and who sees through them. Paranoia grows. Relationships crumble. Their image, the thing they valued above all else, is shattered. And in its place stands the undeniable truth. They were never who they claimed to be. Meanwhile, you no longer need to defend yourself. You no longer need to carry the weight of their deception. The truth that once seemed distant now fights for you, brings light to your pain, and exposes their darkness. Let them face it. Let them crumble beneath it, because truth is karma's sharpest blade, and it never misses its mark. They took advantage of your silence. Now let their own actions speak loudly. There's a weight in silence that only those who have endured betrayal truly understand. You stayed quiet, not because you didn't know the truth, not because you were blind to their actions, but because you believed in peace over chaos. You believed in letting time reveal what words could not. In a world that screams for attention, that demands confrontation and retaliation, you chose the harder path. You endured in silence. You saw everything. You felt the shift in their behavior, the lies hidden behind smiles, the distance cloaked in indifference, the manipulation veiled as care. And though it crushed your spirit, you didn't retaliate. You didn't expose them. Even when every part of you screamed for justice, you held your pain quietly, not because you were weak, but because you had strength they could never comprehend. The strength to trust that truth doesn't need to be shouted, it only needs to be known. But they mistook your silence for surrender. They saw your refusal to fight back as weakness, as submission. They believed they had won, that they could walk away unscathed, while you bore the weight of their betrayal alone. They took your dignity, your patience, your restraint, and turned it into an opportunity to continue their deceit, believing that your silence was permission. They used your stillness as a tool, spinning lies, painting themselves as the victim, manipulating the narrative in every room you never entered. And you let them believe their own illusions. You watched them craft stories, twist the truth, bask in their self-created image while hiding the harm they caused. Not because you lacked the ability to fight back, but because you understood something they didn't. Actions speak louder than words, and time, with its relentless truth, exposes all things. Now, as days pass and memories fade, their own actions are becoming louder than your silence ever was. The people they deceived are beginning to see the cracks in the mask, the patterns they've repeated with others, the same manipulation, the same selfishness are being noticed. Slowly, the illusion is fading. The trust they once enjoyed is disappearing, not because of what you said, but because of what they've done. They are now surrounded by the consequences of their choices. Relationships they once depended on are strained. Opportunities they pursued are slipping away. Their image, once carefully crafted, is collapsing under the weight of reality. The silence they once used to their advantage has become a mirror, reflecting back every lie, every betrayal, every act of deceit, and now they stand alone, not because you spoke, but because they exposed themselves. That's the irony of karma. It doesn't need your voice to serve justice. It uses their own actions as evidence, their own choices as punishment. The web they spun has entangled them. The lies they told are suffocating them. The people they once manipulated are turning away, not because you convinced them, but because truth has a way of making itself known, even in silence. And while they struggle, while they scramble to maintain the crumbling facade, they begin to understand that your silence was never weakness. It was the calm before the reckoning. It was the space where truth gathered strength. Now, The storm they feared is not coming from you. It's coming from within, from the guilt, the fear, the consequences they cannot escape. You no longer have to speak. You no longer have to explain, because karma has found its voice, and it's using their own actions to speak loudly, relentlessly, and without mercy. There comes a moment when the pain fades, not because it didn't hurt, but because justice has spoken, not in the loudness of revenge, not in the chaos of confrontation, but in the quiet certainty that what they did to you is returning to them with a weight they never imagined. You see, when they used you, when they betrayed your trust, when they walked away without guilt, they believed it was over, that they had won, but they didn't know that life has laws. Laws that cannot be outrun or outmaneuvered. Every tear you shed became the seed of their reckoning. Every sleepless night became a brick in the wall that now surrounds them. Where they once thrived on your pain, they now drown in their own consequences. And you have risen. Scarred, yes. Changed, absolutely. But stronger, wiser, and untouched by the chaos they created. The hurt they gave you has become the fire that refined you. And the lies they lived by have become the trap that now holds them captive. Let this truth settle deep in your spirit. You were never weak. You were never replaceable. You were never to blame for their actions. You gave love where others would have walked away. You offered loyalty where others would have sought revenge. And in the end, that is your strength, the ability to remain pure, even in the face of cruelty. And now let karma do what it does best. Let it unfold silently, slowly, completely. Let it deliver justice without your hand needing to lift a finger, because the story has already shifted. The power they thought they had is gone. The world they tried to build at your expense is crumbling, and the peace they thought they could steal from you is finally yours. You no longer need to carry their betrayal. Let it fall away. Watch them face the reality they created and walk forward, whole, vindicated, and free, knowing that they used you, but now karma is breaking them.